Hopefully KK can tell me how to merge those two videos together because the phone rang. And that's all I can video on now until I get a better video setup. But it's starting small. Anyway, we were where he was setting up an oceanographic institute to study whales. So here we go. Let me find where I was. Okay, to finance the project, he had entered into a joint venture agreement with the Japanese government to deploy an array of seismic detection robots called Unmanned Nautical Information Submersibles, or UNIS, along the floor of the Mariana Trench. Something had gone wrong with several of the devices, and Masao needed Jonas's assistance in order to retrieve one of the instruments. At first, the former deep-sea pilot had refused, unable to face his fear. But with his first marriage falling apart and his career in disarray, the thought of redemption became too seductive to pass up. And then there was Terry. Masao Tanaka's only daughter was as beautiful as she was rebellious. If Jonas would not accompany her brother on the mission, she would go in his place. And so Jonas had returned to the gorge, this time descending in a one-man submersible. Once more, fate would deem that he crossed paths with one of nature's most prolific killing machines. Tanaka's son died within one of the creature's jaws, while another huge pregnant female managed to rise from its purgatory in the depths. In the end, Jonas had been forced to kill every creature he had wanted to save, his heroics becoming the stuff of legend. Once the target of ridicule and scorn among his peers, the paleontologist suddenly had his career vindicated, and literally overnight he became an international celebrity. The man who cut the Meg's heart out. Talk shows, television specials, reporters. It seemed everyone wanted a piece of him, as well as a peek at the female megalodon pup that had been captured within the Tanaka Lagoon. He and Terry had wed. Masao Tanaka made his new son-in-law a partner in the Institute, and a year later, the most popular live exhibit in the world had opened for business in Monterey. But fame is fleeting, and celebrity with all its perks also makes one an easy target. 8 months after the lagoon had opened, Jonas and Tanaka and the Tanaka Institute found themselves defendants in a $200 million class action lawsuit filed by the grieving relatives of those who had perished within the jaws of the megalodon. Terry was 4 months pregnant when the trial began, the media frenzy rivaling that of the O.J. Simpson hearings. Would you explain to the court, Professor Taylor, why you risked so much to capture a creature that we've heard described as the most dangerous predator of all time? We had the means to contain the megalodon and study it. Tell us, Professor, when had you actually succeeded in sedating and capturing the monster in your cargo net? Did you ever consider killing it? No, we had it under control. There was no reason to. No reason? Isn't it more accurate to say that you and the Tanaka Institute simply made a business decision not to kill it? Money, Professor. It was all about money, wasn't it? You decided not to slay the goose when you had ample opportunity to do so, only because you wanted its golden eggs. In the end, your greed cost innocent people their lives, and now the offspring of the creature that violently slaughtered my client's loved ones is reaping millions of dollars in profits for the Tanaka Institute. Is that your idea of justice, Professor? In the end, the jury had awarded damages exceeding everyone's expectations. When the courts refused their appeals, the Tanaka Institute had been forced into bankruptcy, and then out of the blue, the Japanese Marine Science Technology Center, JAMSTEC, which had first lured Masao Tanaka into the Mariana Trench, offered the Institute a way out of their financial fix. Concerned about the rise of seismic activity along the Philippine and Pacific tectonic plates, the Japanese once again gave the Tanaka Institute an opportunity to deploy an entire array of UNIS robots along the Mariana Trench floor. The contract was lucrative, but the dangers of returning to the abyss forced Masao Tanaka to seek the help of a billionaire energy mogul, Benedict Singer, who was in the midst of constructing his own fleet of deep-sea submersibles to explore the world's trenches. A partnership was formed, and Masao was forced to give up controlling interest of his beloved institute in order to fulfill the JAMSTEC contract and keep the doors of his attraction open. Jonas drove past the giant billboards advertisement of the Meg. Sea Angel, nature's most prolific killing machine. 3 shows daily. He turned down the employee access road, waved to the guard, and then pulled into his parking spot. The haunting sound of the baritone drums began pounding from the loudspeakers of the outdoor arena. He checked his watch and saw that the 10 o'clock show was moments away from starting. Viewed from above, the man-made Tanaka Lagoon appeared to be an oval lake surrounded by a concrete arena, which ran along the shoreline of the Pacific Ocean. Connecting this enormous aquarium to the sea was an 80-foot deep, 1,000-foot long channel at the midpoint of the lagoon's western wall, consisting of 2 concrete sea walls running parallel to each other. The canal was cut off from the ocean by a set of mammoth double doors of reinforced steel, which prevented the lagoon's star attraction from escaping. As Jonas entered the 10,000-seat stadium, a hush fell over the impatient capacity crowd. All eyes, all camera lenses were turned to focus on the south side of the aquarium, where a 500-pound headless carcass of beef was now being attached to a thick chain dangling from an enormous A-frame. Somewhere deep within the 3/4-mile lagoon, still remaining out of sight, lurked Angel, the monster they had paid theater ticket money to catch a glimpse of. The moment they had waited for so long would soon be upon them. Breakfast was being served. Jonas followed the arena's circular walkway until he came to the concrete platform supporting the steel winch. He glanced up to see his assistant, Manny Valdez, swing the raw carcass carefully into position above the tranquil blue water. Below the concrete platform was a steel door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Jonas noticed that the steel safeguard protecting the locking mechanism had been partially pried back. Damn kids. He made a mental note to have it repaired, then unlocked the door and entered the dank stairwell, slamming the door behind him. Jonas inhaled the familiar cool dampness, taking a moment to allow his eyes to adjust in the dim light. He descended the 2 flights of stairs slowly, the voodoo-like drumbeats growing fainter as he moved deeper into the bowels of the facility. The stairwell emptied into a subterranean semicircular corridor that ran along the southern circumference of the enormous tank. Eerie reflections of blue-green light illuminated the otherwise dark passage. Jonas moved slowly to the source of the light, turning the face of the 15-foot-high, 6-inch-thick Lexan bay windows. Okay. He was now 30 feet below the surface, staring into the crystal blue waters of the man-made lagoon. Jonas looked up, reading a newly erected sign above his head. Danger, no movement while the megalodon is present. He pressed his palm against the Lexan glass. Its cold surface reverberated from the underwater acoustics being pumped into the tank, calling the beast to its meal. Drops of crimson blood from the dangling carcass dispersed along the surface of the water above his head. Jonas gripped the rail. Deep within the farthest confines of the ocean access canal, a pure white triangular head, the size of a small house, continued its side-to-side mantra of movement, rubbing its conical snout raw against the porous gateway of steel. As the inflowing current of water from the Pacific passed through the pores of the gateway, the to and fro movements of the creature's head siphoned the scents of the sea into its nasal capsule. Miles away, pods of whales were migrating north along the California coastline. The 72-foot prehistoric female great white could smell their sweet, pungent scents. The deep bass of the underwater acoustics intensified, stimulating the highly sensitive cells running along the creature's lateral line. The reverberations meant food. The female turned away from the gate, remaining deep to avoid the electrical field being discharged from an array of pipes extending out along the upper inner portion of the seawall, all that prevented the 62,000-pound behemoth from simply leaping sideways out of the canal. A great roar rose from the crowd as a prodigious wake accelerated into the lagoon. 10,000 hearts fluttered as the 7-foot ivory dorsal fin appeared, cutting across the azure surface. The movement girth of the submerged Leviathan sent 14-foot waves crashing over the eastern walls of the tank. The fin disappeared as the fish descended to circle below, and the audience breathed a collective sigh. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to Angel, our own white angel of death. With a whoosh, the beast suddenly exploded from the tank. Murderous jaws stretched full 10 feet, rose to 6 to 9-inch teeth, hyperextending away from its mouth in slow motion, sending screams ripping through the crowd. For a heart-stopping moment, its upper torso remained suspended out of the water, defying gravity as the monster shark latched onto the entire carcass in one horrific bite. The A-frame groaned, bending as the creature twisted from side to side in exaggerated throws of its humongous head, attempting to free its meal from the steel clamp. Mountains of frothy pink waves slammed against the plexiglass shield of the spectators, and then the carcass tore free, the steel support snapping back into place as the ghostly prehistoric predator claimed its prize. The crowd swooned as the pale monstrosity slipped back into its tank and submerged. The cleanly picked clamp continued to dance at the end of the swinging chain, the steel girders of the A-frame reverberating like a giant tuning fork from the force of the shark. Through the myriad of bubbles and swirling shards of beef, Jonas stared at the creature's ghastly alabaster belly as it chewed its food, the violent muscular contraction from its jaws sending great ripples gyrating down its underside and gills. Waves created by the feeding behemoth pounded the glass, causing the Lexan sheets to rattle in its frame. Jonas stared in awe at the female's girth, which had surpassed even that of its parent Angel, of its deceased parent. Angel's lifelong existence in the highly oxygenated surface waters had obviously had an impact on her size, as well as her ravenous appetite. Like her parent, her entire hide was luminescent white, a genetic adaptation the shark's ancestors had acquired to lure prey in the perpetually dark waters of the Mariana Trench. Jonas remained motionless, staring at his waking nightmare. The soulless gray eye rolled back into place as it ravaged the last bot. A red phone on the wall rang, and Jonas reached for it. Detecting movement, the megalodon arched its back. Sculling forward, it pushed its snout against the Lexan glass, as if looking in. Ooh. That would be intimidating. Jonas froze. He had never seen the female so agitated. "Hello, Doc, are you there?" Sweat trickled down Jonas's armpit as Angel continued pressing against the underwater bay windows, staring at him. The Lexan began bending. I'm going to pause for a second because my cat is meowing and I have ADHD and I cannot focus on what I'm reading if I have that going on in the background. It's driving me crazy. So, one moment, please. Please. Well, it's not pausing. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. Let me find where we were. Oh, okay. Jonas recalled the words of the facility's engineer. Bending is normal. Flexible plates actually become stronger as they bend. If the window does shatter, the doors in the outer corridor will automatically seal. Angel pressed the side of her massive head against the window. The cataract gray eye focused on him. Jonas felt an exquisite eeriness. Only 6 inches of Lexan separated him from death. What if the engineer had been wrong? After all, the tank was originally designed to harbor whales. The Meg turned and disappeared into the lagoon, heading straight for the canal. Jonas released his breath, his limbs shaking. He leaned back against the wall, out of sight, trying to fathom what had just taken place. Yeah, Manny, Christ, I see what you mean about our girl being a bit wound up. Better join us in the control room, boss. You're going to want to see this. Jonas exited the underwater viewing area, headed across the open-air arena to the administrative wing. Not bothering to wait for the elevator, he dashed up the 3 flights of stairs, 2 steps at a time, pushing through the double doors of the lagoon's master control room. Manny Vasquez was standing over the 2 technicians seated by a computerized control board. From here, operators could oversee the lagoon's environment, electronics, security, and sound system. 6 closed-circuit television monitors were mounted above the board. Manny pointed to the underwater image appearing on one of the monitors. Jonas could see the outlines of the giant steel double doors that secured the canal from the Pacific. What am I looking at? Keep watching. Jonas stared at the monitor. A minute passed, and then a white blur shot past the camera, accelerating fast toward the gateway, faster than a tractor trailer, moving at more than 100 feet per second. The head of the Leviathan slammed into the sealed double doors, causing the televised image to shake violently. Oh, Jesus, she's attacking the gate. Manny nodded. No doubt about it, Doc. That fish of yours wants out. And that concludes, with a lot of interruptions, Chapter 2 of The Trench by Steve Alten. So, if I can't get KK to merge these together, then I will upload them as different sections. And if any of y'all know me, and many of you do know me, because I really haven't acquired any followers yet that don't know me, I'm quirky, and this is just who I am. So you'll either like it or you won't. But anyway, it's Friday. I hope y'all have a lovely weekend, and I will attack Chapter 3 on the first of next week, like Monday or Tuesday probably, and upload it. So I will also link in below the Amazon link. I think if you have Amazon Prime, I think you can get it. If you subscribe to their reading service, you can get it for free, or it's cheaper on Kindle. I mean, this book's been out for a long time. And as you can see, if you saw the Meg, part of the movie of the Meg pulls from the first book and the second book. So really, if you've not read the first book, we should probably go back and do that if I have time, because it's not exactly how it was portrayed in the movie. So, and that being said, thank you for listening, and I hope that y'all have a wonderful weekend, and you take care. Bye.